Good evening and welcome to our second last evening together. That's gone very fast, I think. It doesn't seem like any time at all since we were just starting these things. But anyway, welcome back. And tonight we're having a session about visioning a new normal. So let's have a look at a few ideas that might help us to envisage a new normal. Firstly, acknowledgement of country. We acknowledge the original custodians of the land upon which we meet, and we pay respect to the elders past, present, and emerging. And then just breathing in, sending appreciation. And while you're at it, let's just shake off the day a little bit. And so just rolling your shoulders and letting any tension go out of your neck and shoulders. Perhaps put your chin up and then down, rolling those shoulders, and breathe in and release through the back of the head and neck area. And another breath in and releasing out through the shoulders. And then just being aware of your breath. And as you breathe in, allow the sense of the energy of the breath to come into the mind. And imagine you can breathe out through the back of the head. And just being aware of the mind and of the thoughts that are coming up, and just breathing into the mind and let it know it's about to have a nice rest. And then breathing down through the body, and imagine you can breathe out through your feet and connect with the earth. Be aware of your tummy muscles, pull them in and then let them relax. And be aware of your leg muscles and tense them all up all the way down to your feet and then relax them. And do the same with your jaw and your neck muscles. Carry a lot of tension in our jaws and then relaxing. And just touching the heart center in the middle of the chest as you come fully into the presence of your own self. Who am I? And taking a deep breath in. And then as you are ready to, just open your eyes. So, strange times we're living in, folks, aren't they? Strange times, very stressful times for a great many people, both within the medical and health profession and elsewhere. And I think the crisis is even worse because it's not just COVID, it's all of the lockdown issues, the mental health, anxiety and depression issues that are no doubt flowing already and will continue to flow from this. But also, some of my medical friends have talked about their concern about a post-pandemic crisis of non-prevented disease from people putting off checkups and not being able to have elective issues dealt with, but more to the point, when they themselves put off getting things checked out because they're frightened of going somewhere or they can't get in. And so it's a pretty turgid old time that we're living through. And so it would be great to think of what sort of model do we need for finding a future that's not the same as the past. And for me, going through something like it's a trauma, the crisis point, it's not about going back to how things were before. It's about how do we evolve to a new normal. And so I wanted to share with you some ideas from a group in England called Safely Held Spaces. And they've come up with an absolutely beautiful model. And it's for helping and supporting people going through extreme mental and emotional distress. And whilst the main thrust of their project is people with psychosis and the people supporting psychotic episodes. It's the model itself that I think is relevant to any people going throughout a crisis, where we need to make space to change while getting the support we need. And so it's with that in mind that I just wanted to borrow their model of what it is that happens when we go from everyday life, how things were 2 years ago, we're just getting on with things. And then there's a threshold that we crossed into some testing times. And that was probably last year, where things were not the same. We weren't really sure what was going to happen, but there was a lot of stress for sure. And then there's a new threshold, and I think that's more happened this year, into which we've got when we've gone into really extreme times. And I think you'd probably agree that it's pretty extreme at the moment, with the mixture of the health crisis, the number of people with COVID in New South Wales, in the Hunter area. It's not as bad as it might become, but it's pretty full on. And then there's this other threshold that this model talks about, where we can either emerge or return. And as well as going around the model this way, one also moves from the inside part of the model to the outside of the model. And so the idea is that as we move forward through this cycle that takes us in through a very big stress, in through a crisis, and back out again, that we have an opportunity to move from a limited worldview in whichever sphere of life we're most interested in, to a, you might say, an ordinary worldview, that what most people think. And then you might also be able to go to an expanded worldview, which means going to ideas and entertaining concepts that we've just never thought of before because we've never needed to. And for us to see the opportunity in the current situation, that there will be opportunities, things will emerge that we never thought of before, and that instead of going back to normal, we're going to emerge to at the return of everyday life, but transformed by our experience. And so that's the kind of the theme of envisaging a new normal. What is it that our new normal is going to be like? And one of the things that I think we need to look at is a bit of a paradigm shift to do with well-being, because when people are busy professionals, it's very easy to put your own well-being last. And there's lots of stories that we've told ourselves, probably throughout our career, and maybe from our families, and perhaps from our professions themselves, what we've learned about self-care. And I think that the paradigm in health, as in law, which was my background, is not that great about how you look after yourself. And so how is it that we can look at the old stories that we told ourselves and really put them under a microscope and say, you know what, we don't really want to go back to how it was. And if we're going through all this crisis and angst and stuff, at least may there be something better on the other side of it. So really, I think, if nothing else, COVID has shown us that we can make changes, because let's face it, we've shut down entire economies and mandated people not being able to leave their homes and not traveling interstate. I mean, so many massive changes that I'm sure 2 or 3 years ago, none of us ever envisaged anything that would make those kinds of changes show up in our lives. And so if we can make those kinds of structural changes in one area, then we can make them in another area, which is in our own self-care. And really, there's nothing more important. And so I thought it might be nice this evening to visualize a new normal, a new and more expansive future. And that's going to be the focus of our meditation this evening. And to give this a little structure, I thought we might look at this map of 12 different areas, a wheel of life, let's say. And it starts with the first part, number 1 there, who am I? And who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? People used to say that in a disparaging way, didn't they? Who do you think you are? But I don't mean it that way. I mean, literally, who do I think I am? Who do I believe myself to be? And so we can envisage a new normal there. Our values. I'm sure there's many shifts we can make around valuing ourselves, our health, our relationships with the people we love, and making sure that we get better at cutting out extraneous work-related activities that might be busy, but it might not be productive. And I'm sure we all have that sort of thing somewhere in our work life. And people who've been through serious health crises themselves, people who've had heart attacks or other serious things, they've often really changed the way they work. And it doesn't mean they're less successful, but it does mean that they bring up other parts of life in the mix of their life to have a much more fulfilling and satisfying life. So there's the idea of community and how we play our part in community. And community can be home, or it can be related to one's spirituality, or one's racial origins, or one's geography, or the tennis club, or the golf club, or any other club you might belong to. We've got home and family as being headings for us to envisage how we'd like it to be. What would we like to see? It's dreaming big, this meditation we're going to do. And then what about our creative life? We're all creative in one way or another. Even the people who say they aren't, they actually are in one way or another. How do you express your creativity? And I've often found that for people who are burning out or close to exhausted, that if they can take some time and then rebalance on this wheel, that it's actually the creativity that brings in a lot of juice for us to be able to be healthy and well, and to keep all the other things going, and to fuel our careers as well, that we need to get fed from somewhere. So we've got health and well-being as being part of our wheel of life. We've got our relationships with significant others. And one of the interesting parts of this model is dealing with change, and that change of itself is a whole sector of this pie. And how do we deal with change? What comes up in us when change is occurring? Do we freak out about it sort of habitually, or are we people that can roll with change? And there are real skills around change management, internal skills and external skills that we can learn. Then the next one is about our capacity to be lifelong learners, and to hold a vision of where we want to be, and to look outside the square a bit. High functioning intelligence is that one. How do we cultivate that? And when we do, what effect does it have on everything else? Then we have the sector of life that's career. Then we have friends. And then we have the understanding of the core of my essence. So 12 and 1 are related, but who am I has to do with the externality of who I present myself in the world as being. But number 12 is more about who do I feel myself to be at the core of my essence, and do I relate to having a spirit and a soul? And if I do, what state are they in? Am I feeling spirited, or am I feeling despirited? Do I feel like my soul is alive and well and really part of my life in a big way? Or do I feel droopy and kind of exhausted, and I'm dragging myself through life thinking there's got to be another way? And if you are feeling like that over a period of time, I would suggest that getting in touch with that deeper core essence of self in the way that's right for you would be good medicine. So we're going to meditate on this model now, and I'm going to guide a meditation that's going to take us through a bit of a visioning or dreaming session. And we will also utilize breath a little bit as a relaxation to get us going. So as usual, let's start with relaxing the body. Sit with your spine straight, and either cross-legged on a couch or the floor, or with your feet firmly on the floor and your back straight in a chair. I often try and sit on the front part of the chair when I'm meditating to keep my spine straight. And you can have your hands turned face up just to feel the energy of the meditation a little more. So just taking a deep breath in as we commence now. and being aware of your whole body. Take another deep breath in as we be aware of our mind. And take another deep breath in as you consider that core essence of self. And bringing your awareness into this very moment. And may we be inspired from the core essence of self to bring forth a new normal when eventually the crisis passes. May there be a new and more glorious normal, a more balanced life, a richer life, a more satisfying and fulfilling life than we've ever experienced before. And may we all make space in our lives for all of these matters on this wheel of life. And may we all flourish as a result. And so just being aware now of the first of these areas. We call them mansions of the soul, actually. Who am I? Who is it that people think they're looking at when they see me? What do people see, and what would I like people to perceive about me? What are the masks I've worn in the past? And what would it be like to be really authentically me in the world? And to be coming from a place of believing in myself, really valuing myself, feeling good about myself, being able to flow with the good days and the bad days, but with a pretty good inner dialogue. Who am I? Who would I like to emerge from this crisis being? I'd like to be a lot more, and insert whatever you like. And breathing into that idea. And then take your awareness to your values, the second part of this map. What do I value? Where have I placed my emphasis in the balance of my entire life? What are the bits that are working well? And what are the bits that I might like to make some changes to? And how am I tracking with my finances? And how would I like to be tracking? Imagine the type of life you'd like to have, where the ins are always more than the outs financially, where it feels satisfying, and where you feel in alignment with your deepest core essence. And now take your awareness to your place in your local community. Do people know you? Do you know your neighbours? Do you feel that you're part of a caring community? Would you like to be more than you are? Would you like to make connections with people who are local from all walks of life, enjoying the diversity? And take your awareness to your home life, your family life. How are things doing there? And are there any areas where you'd like to see a bit of a shift, where you would like things to be different to how they are now? And just envisaging, what would those changes be that you'd like to see? Imagine the feelings of connectedness and being in the flow with each other. Imagine what caring more would look like. And imagine what receiving love from the people you live with, what would that be like? From your family. And take your awareness to your own expression of the creative energy. And how are you being creative in your life right now? Does work bring out creativity for you? What about away from work? Do you have any interests or hobbies or pastimes where the time just flies by and you just feel peaceful, where you just enjoy it so much and it brings you pleasure? What would you like to incorporate into your life by way of sheer enjoyment? How can you recharge your batteries with enjoyable downtime? And what about your own health and your own well-being? You probably spend a lot of time looking after others, but how well are you looking after self right now? Breathing deeply and slowly, and just think of an area or two where you might like to make a few adjustments or follow through with some aspect of a self-care plan for yourself. What is it you might like to put on the agenda for your own care and well-being? And thinking about your relationships, your intimate relationships, partnerships. What's happening there? Do you remember a time when you felt the real zing of relating with someone? That feeling of how amazing the person is. And then time passes and it becomes a little less magical sometimes. And then there's a cycle of intimacy. Whereabouts are you at the moment on the cycle of intimacy or ships in the night? going through the motions, but not much heart connection. What could you do to create a lift and shift in your relationship life? And what about your relationship with change? Change is almost certain in our lives, isn't it? And what do we need to provide for ourselves mentally, emotionally, or physically to help us navigate change in the most auspicious way? And just asking the question, even if you don't know the answer. By asking, you open to that field of possibility. And you start things rolling. And what about higher learning? Expanding your awareness, expanding your consciousness. What fulfills that need in you to learn and to grow? Do you do this within your work setting? What about outside of your work setting? Do you study things that interest you from time to time? Do you take the odd course just for fun? Do you give yourself permission or create time in your life for your own evolution and growth? And thinking about your career. How satisfying is it at the moment? Do you feel you're contributing to something that is larger than you are? Do you feel seen and recognized for your contribution? Do you feel that you can give richly and warmly in your work environment? And can you then turn off, rest, and replenish? And what is it you'd like to be remembered for at the end of your life and you look back? What would you like people to say about you? How would you like to be remembered? Here is a person who expand your mind beyond any past limits you may have set upon yourself. And what about friendships? Do they tend to dissolve because you're too busy? Who haven't you called in a while? Particularly in the current climate, who do I need to contact to just check and see that they're okay? Let them know I care. And smiling at all of those people who are your friends. And on some level, may there be an impulse to get in touch with each other again. And now we come to the last of the soul mansions, which is our core essence. Am I in tune with myself? Or do I feel somewhat disconnected? Does anxiety take myself, out of my center? Or does depression shut me down? Am I too busy to really know the core of myself? Or do the masks that I wear prevent me ever looking within? There's treasure inside. May we have the fortitude, the interest, and the curiosity to find that treasure. Breathing deeply. And imagine that from the wellspring of your inner being, a feeling of peacefulness, a sense of light, a sense of possibility, and a new sense of hope emerges from the core essence of who you are and floods itself into every area we've just looked at. And just breathing slowly and deeply. As you contemplate the totality of your life and smiling at your future and the creative power within you to bring changes you'd like to see in your life. And just breathing deeply in and feel your whole being expanding. And is there one thing that this has brought for you that you could action today, tomorrow? Is there one thing you go, yes, that would make a difference? That would move me towards a new vision for my life. That could be a catalyst for good things. What one thing can you find? And smiling at your inner being, smiling at your mind and your body, and know that life is a grand adventure. And when you're ready, just gently bringing your awareness back into your body. Wiggle your fingers and your toes. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. That map is quite interesting, isn't it? I actually wrote a book about that called Dimensions of Wealth, available. You can find it online probably. But it's something that's really stuck with me over time, this model. Yes. Anyway, if stuff's come up for you, then there's many resources to help you, including the Wellbeing Initiative, where I'm from. We have a lot of help available through individual sessions and through free resources. So the kinds of things we do in meditation together, we can also do as a form of meditation therapy, which is very, very nice and very enjoyable. So, next week will be our final session in the evening, and it is going to be something very special. We're going to do a sound bath, and I have a friend who is a harp player who's going to come and accompany the recording so that you'll be having harp music. And it's a beautiful breath and sound procedure that we'll do that it's just so yummy. It's like having your own little spa. So I hope that you'll really enjoy that as our last evening together. Also, we have a session this coming Thursday on self-care awareness and how to cut from your patience, how to cut from the day, how to make good transitions, and then we'll have a meditation about that. And then our final session is on Thursday, the 14th of October at 1 o'clock. And it's about visioning a new future from the point of view of the corporate aspect rather than the personal aspect. Tonight was more about the personal aspect, but there's some great ideas too about how we might be able to envisage a new future in the workplace to make it just more enriching for everybody. All right, we'll have an inspiring evening, a good rest, and a wonderful rest of the week. Bye-bye.